The interesting thing about Far Cry is that it's flexible. I mean, maybe there's an idea that we have all these different Far Crys planned, but the reality is at the end of each Far Cry, we sort of think to ourselves, where do we want to go next? And so a team came to us and basically said, we've got an idea for Far Cry. So they sat us down and they started to talk about the idea of a Far Cry that was primordial, that took place at the beginning of time, the beginning of mankind. And now we have a chance to finally reveal Far Cry Primal. We are super excited about this game.
I think at the heart why it clicked is because it's a very powerful idea, very simple, especially for a Far Cry game, because it's always been this kind of dual or pitting nature and man together. We decided to settle on the Mesolithic time period, which is a very interesting moment in humanity because this is the first frontier. It's the first time a man put a stick in the ground and said, this is mine.
I think all Far Cry games are about survival. And they're always about survival at first, and then it's about going from being the hunted to the hunter. When Takar arrives to Oros, he's exhausted, he lost everyone, he's alone, he has no weapons, and he finds himself in a place where actually you don't know if beasts or men are the most dangerous.
Alors, Oros, c'est un monde sauvage et primitif. C'est une corne d'abondance. C'était un ancien glacier qui s'est retiré à la fin de l'ère glaciaire et qui est devenu une vallée très très fertile avec des écosystèmes très différents où énormément d'animaux sont retrouvés, notamment des grands prédateurs et des grands herbivores.
For us, it's always been important to have nature be bigger than man. It was the time of the megafauna. Everyone was competing for food and man was definitely not at the top of the food chain.
Le principe, c'est qu'on n'achète pas ses armes, on les fabrique. Au début, il va devoir vraiment ramasser du bois, des pierres, commencer à se fabriquer ses premières armes, etc. Petit à petit, obtenir plus de ressources pour fabriquer des armes de plus en plus fortes.
It's all about hunting. It's all about fighting another tribe that is trying to take your stuff. It's all about gathering food and materials to survive.
À cette époque, l'homme était déjà extrêmement avancé, savait déjà utiliser la taille de la pierre de 150 façons différentes. Donc on a énormément de variations de type de lance, on a énormément de variations de type d'arc, faites avec, comme à l'époque, des pierres, des ligaments, des bouts d'os. Donc ça a nourri encore plus notre envie de le faire rentrer dans la marque Far Cry.
Comme on l'a dit, le monde est vraiment grand. Mais le monde est vraiment dense. Il y a énormément d'activités, de systèmes d'animaux, des humains en train de chasser. Le cycle jour-nuit va changer ce qui se passe. Donc, de nuit, les prédateurs vont sortir, les proies vont aller dormir. Le joueur va se retrouver pris là-dedans. Et à chaque fois, on a des surprises. Et c'est ça qu'on aime, en fait.
When you make a game that's set 12,000 years ago, it's really hard and there's not a lot of documentation on it. Yeah, there's the environment, that's one thing, but what about the culture, the people, the way they talk, the way they move, all these things?
What's primal? How do we get back to our roots? All the organic remains have disappeared. Did they use leather? We don't know. Were they using wood? We don't know. What remains are rocks and bones. So for me, it was very interesting because we actually had great gray areas in which we could dive into.
Et se plonger là-dedans, c'est comme cette possibilité de changer des règles. On n'a pas d'armes à feu, on n'a pas de véhicule, on doit inventer de nouvelles manières de se déplacer, de se battre, qu'on n'avait pas l'habitude de mettre en avant autant dans les autres Far Cry.
I think it's going to be a very exotic journey, but it's still a Far Cry at core. So I don't know, I think they're going to be excited to have a new playground that feels so fresh and new, and where every step could lead you to a new discovery that you are not expecting.
The Stone Age is a very primitive time where man had to rely on a lot of different tools in order to survive and to hunt. And so around 13,000 years ago, man started to work with other animals, wolves, in order to hunt down savage beasts like the mammoth and this kind of thing. And so we looked at what we had in Far Cry, and historically we have a very rich wildlife, and we started to investigate the possibility for the player to tame the wild beasts that we would create in Oros.
All the beasts have their place, depending on how the player really wants to approach situations. With the canines, you have a beast that will explore for you, who will alert you to nearby danger and growl. Felines are known for being stealthy, so if you're that kind of tactical stealth player, a feline is your best choice for beast. bear is your quintessential tank. It's going to take all kinds of aggro off of you if you encounter hostile enemies in the world. And then lastly, we have the honey badger. And the honey badger is really in a league of his own.
You can send them, to take out a small village. You can use them to distract enemies. You can use them to hunt. So I think it really opens up the types of gameplay that you can do. I was playing last night and I had a great moment where there was a small village with a couple of people. And I just went in with my sabretooth tiger and just slowly, one by one, we were picking out enemies. It was just such a good feeling.
In Far Cry, when you come across a situation, you always want to recon it first. And you can do that from your point of view as Takar, but you can also send in your owl, who is going to act as your recon tool.
He can view outposts from above, he can mark enemies, he can bomb enemies if he wishes, and the owl also has a specialized aerial attack.
Sometimes they feel like they're more aware of what's happening than you are. So often you're gonna be walking around and you see nothing, and then suddenly you see your beast reacting to something. The bear, for example, is gonna stand on its back legs and it's gonna growl and scare those animals away without you even needing to do anything.
It's a very different experience because usually in Far Cry it's a little bit more lonely. It's you against everything. So the ability to have your beast at your side, it's very rewarding.
You now have a companion, you have a friend, you have a protector that will travel with you through the land and help you fight for survival.
What makes, I think, Primal very special is that ability to have the animals. They're an extension of yourself, and they are, I think, your ultimate weapon.
Something that was really important for us for Primal was to make sure the stories happening in the world were really intertwined. It's part of the Far Cry DNA. You fight the way you want, you have all the toys you want, you can explore the way you want. It's really a game that's about freedom and letting the player decide how he wants to play. The player will be Takar, Stone Age hunter, looking for his lost people, the Wenjas. The Wenja tribe has been destroyed, scattered around by two very different but very aggressive tribes.
In order to reunite the Wenja, Takar will need to go and explore all Oros to try and find the key members of the tribe and get them into a safe haven. The village is actually the spine of the narrative. So if you do activities in the open world, you're actually going to probably free Wenja that are going to make your village grow. If you go and do the main missions, you're going to encounter a new specialist that will provide you with new skills and knowledge that will get you stronger.
Far Cry games are about exotic location, places with weird characters, but also about authenticity. So when the team decided to recreate the Proto-Indo-European language, we turned to experts that we found to help us recreate a language that has been dead for 12,000 years.
We were contacted by Ubisoft to create a language based off of Proto-Indo-European for Far Cry Primal. First, we thought it was going to be something small, and then it became clear that the entire game was going to be in at least 2, if not 3, versions of Proto-Indo-European, which is huge.
So Proto-Indo-European was a language that was spoken thousands of years ago. It's the source of many languages that are spoken today, languages like English and Spanish and Russian, but also the source of ancient languages like Latin, Greek, and Sanskrit. For Wenja, what we wanted to do was to create a Proto-Indo-European, something that goes even further back in time. So we looked at certain very ancient features of Proto-Indo-European, and we assumed them to be the baseline for not only the Wenja tribe, but also the Udam.
Nakrabi, Hirakisbata.
The creative team views the Azila as a more advanced tribe, so we thought it would be a good idea to give them a more advanced stage of the language. Sometimes we ran into problems where there weren't words that we can reconstruct for Proto-Indo-European. So for example, we know of about 20 different roots for the verb to shine. We have no idea how they said yes.
It's been quite an exciting and even moving experience to see how the culture that was dead for thousands of years could be brought back.
We like to produce games that are set in in places or times where, in addition to have fun, you could learn a little something or discover something that is part of our world and our cultures.
It's this kind of experience we also wanted to show in Primal, show a bit what was the life of Stone Age hunters. And this is what the player will experience.